Oh, YouTube. I'm gonna try to make this quick. I'm not good at that. I need to complain about the state of video games and the gaming industry as a whole. Um, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine a couple of days ago, and he was trying to, you know, he was telling me that I don't play video games anymore. I'm not a gamer anymore. You don't play games. What happened to you? Which it's not true. I do play games. I just don't play very many games. As much as I used to. And the reason for that is I don't trust uh, game developers anymore. Game developers have lost a lot of their autonomy. They've lost a lot of their soul. Um, too much money has gotten into video games to where I feel like it's a race to the bottom, to the lowest common denominator. I mean, games, we only had so many different genres of games to begin with, but then we started adding new genres of games to that, like Resident Evil was a, survival horror, a completely new genre of game. Metal Gear Solid, um, stealth espionage, right? Like, we started developing these new genres of games and these new types of gameplay. And of the past, I don't know, decade, um, that's it's been regressing. They've been consolidating. They've been taking games that are, from these genres and restructuring them to make them more broadly appealing. This is what happens when you take companies public and you get investors and you start letting people who don't know anything about an industry start making decisions about that industry because their main focus is whether or not it's going to make money. They don't really care about the art. Um, my pet peeve, my frustration is that you can't take Resident Evil and just take the basic components of it as a skin and put that over top of some other type of game and still call it Resident Evil. Um, Now, it's not to say that the genre can't move outside of what it's traditionally done. It can. I've just finished playing Resident Evil 7 VR on the PlayStation VR, and it was fucking amazing. But it felt like Resident Evil. No, it didn't have the tank controls. It did handle and control very differently, but I feel like that's a whole other subject. But that's definitely, in my opinion, the best example of what a game should play like in VR. Um, that I need to save that for later. I'm gonna make a separate video about Resident Evil 7 because I think it's really good and underappreciated. Um, but I think I feel like for me personally, I first noticed this trend starting after Final Fantasy X. I feel like Final Fantasy X is the last Final Fantasy game that was actually Final Fantasy. I feel like every game after that, it's not. You've got chocobos and cactors and summons, and you've got all the ingredients, but it's not Final Fantasy. It's like the Taco Bell menu, right? Like everything's got a crunchy tortilla shell of some kind, beans, meat, lettuce, tomatoes, cheese, right? That you put it like this, it's a burrito. You put it like this, it's a taco. You put it flat, it's a Mexican pizza. It's the same fucking shit. You're just calling it something different. So when you take Final Fantasy and you take all those ingredients that make it Final Fantasy, but you reshape them and make them something else. It's not the same game anymore. You can't just take all that shit and put it together and call it something it isn't. Final Fantasy is a story-driven, turn-based RPG. That's what it is. It is a story-driven, turn-based RPG. After Final Fantasy X, when Squaresoft fucked up big time with the movie and went bankrupt, and Enix bought them out, and then a bunch of investors got involved, and they completely changed the way the game plays. They made it easier. They made it less complicated. They made it simpler. You no longer controlled all three characters, all four characters. You just controlled one character. And then in Final Fantasy 12, they had the Gambit system. And in Final Fantasy 13, they had whatever the fuck that system was. But you're not controlling the other players. It's more like a Kingdom Hearts type battle system than Final Fantasy. It's really frustrating as a gamer who likes these particular genres of games for developers to change the game to make it more appealing to a broader market, because you're losing your fan. I mean, you're not immediately losing the fan base, obviously, because the games sell like crazy and a lot of people love them. But I've been arguing with a buddy of mine for years, and finally, after Final Fantasy 15 comes out, suddenly he agrees with me. Oh shit, yeah, Final Fantasy is not the same anymore. Well, no shit. What was your first Final Fantasy 11 when they tried to go turning it into an MMO? Like, that's not Final Fantasy. That's not the game. It's not the same. It's like this new fad with everybody making their games into a some kind of the fuck is battle royale. This, you know, PUBG comes out and then Fortnite takes on the thing, and then I played several different royale type games on Steam. Personally, I liked Realm Royale, was my favorite of the subset of them. But this new genre of game comes out, and instead of just allowing it to be its thing, every single fucking game developer's like, oh shit, we got to get on this. We're gonna miss out. We're missing out on money. Like there's money to be had, and we're not getting it. We need to turn our game into a battle. We need to make a battle royale mode for our game. We have to do it, because if we don't, then people want it. People expect it. So let's do it. And now you've this fucking game out of nowhere, Apex Legends, whatever the fuck it is. I'm not playing it. I refuse. I saw it. I watched a video about what it's basically about. It's a fucking battle royale. It looks like they try to copy what Overwatch is kind of doing and make a battle royale type game out of it. And this game has no soul. None. There's no soul. This game was not. Somebody did not think up this game purely from an artistic standpoint. This game was not thought up by somebody. And you know, they didn't get stoned and come up with this idea for a game. They didn't sit down with their buddies and like discuss this, like, oh, we'll make this great game. That's not how this game came up. And I don't give a fuck if you're the person who made this game and you're telling me I'm wrong. Fuck you. You're full of shit. You're just full of shit. Okay. This game was made for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to make money. That's the only reason this game was made. This game is a fucking money grab. That's what it is. It's the same shit with goddamn fucking EA's new Destiny knockoff that they're making that looks great, has potential. I'm not gonna fucking buy it. I'm not doing it. I was gonna get it. I was really excited about the whole 4-player co-op thing, but the fuck is this thing? I was in on the Anthem. Anthem. Fuck. It's gonna be just like Destiny. It's gonna have very little base content. They probably have a ton of shit already made for it that they're gonna slowly trickle out. Like, motherfuckers, if that's what you want to do to fund, like, use a subscription service type system like fucking World of Warcraft does. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel by reselling us the same goddamn game through microtransactions and expansions? This isn't a fucking expansion. This shit should have been in the base game. The base World of Warcraft game had so much fucking content in it. There's no way you could get through, and it was good content, interesting content. You like, there were all of the different quests and things. It wasn't repetitive. It may have been similar types of quests with the repetitiveness, like it's a fetch quest, go gather these items, but it was in a different area. It sent you into, you would go into new zones, new areas. The world was huge, huge. There were all these different social spaces that existed that actually had NPCs in them that did shit. Your quests came from individual NPCs. It's not fucking hard to do this. If you're trying to copy what World of Warcraft or whatever fucking EverQuest, whatever. I didn't play EverQuest. I don't know. If you're trying to copy what World of Warcraft did, at least copy the good parts of it and do it fucking right. Right? Like, it's not like Destiny was an already existing franchise like Resident Evil or Final Fantasy, and they wanted to capitalize off of this market, so they took the skin off of Resident Evil and stuck it over World of Warcraft, like, oh look, it's zombies and Raccoon City and green herbs and red herbs and the fucking save boxes, but it's in a MMO setting now. Like, that's not what Destiny did. Destiny is a completely new game. They had an opportunity to start fresh, start new, be a copycat, copy a existing genre of game that was already there, and do it right. And they fucked it up. They fucked it up because they tried to monetize the shit out of it, and they are monetizing the shit out of it. Give us fucking. You have the ability to make so much more content, but you're not doing it. We'll pay for it. Just fucking give it to us. Stop trickling it out. It's fucking asinine. If you spent some of the money you're making on more fucking develop, like, fuck you guys. Fucking game companies, game developers are catering to the producers like EA and Activision, and they're catering to their fucking investors. It's stupid. It's just stupid. I cannot believe. Can I even say fuck on YouTube? Or, like, how does that work? What happened to this platform? Is this even like a freedom of speech type platform anymore? I don't know. I digress. Problem with video games today is developers have run out of ideas. Producers don't give a shit. They see a cash cow like Final Fantasy or Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid, right? Or God of War. And they know people like that. They like that thing. I mean, look, I got bullshit fandom paraphernalia everywhere, right? So there's things that we like intrinsically. Fucking Ninja Turtles, right? So they want to use that because they know there's a market for it, and they want to stick it over something that they also know there's a market for. There's a market for this type of gameplay, and it's a bigger market than for this type of gameplay, right? Like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3 with the tank controls and the different weird camera angles and how difficult the game was. They were really, really popular games to gamers in the gaming community. Like some of the greatest games ever made, groundbreaking, revolutionary, all those things. But I'm curious to find out, like, how much money did those games actually even make? How much money did they make versus what they're making now? The producers have realized they can make way more money by catering to a larger market population than they can selling to a core hardcore fan base. And it's not that, oh, the hardcore fans are too hard to please. It's just that you've given away your soul. Like, I get it if you're some up and coming indie game developer and you're trying to get into the market and make some money with your, creation, and you look at what is popular and you build a game kind of in that direction because you're trying to get out there. I understand it. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. But there's nothing new anymore. There's nothing new. It's like taking Monopoly or Clue and putting a video game theme on it. I'm sorry, but fucking Resident Evil Clue isn't Resident Evil. It's Clue. Resident Evil 5 was not Resident Evil. It was a great game. One of my favorite games. I loved Resident Evil 5. But it was not Resident Evil. It did not play like a Resident Evil game. It had all of the components, but it just didn't feel like Resident Evil when you played it. It didn't feel like a Resident Evil game to me. And then Resident Evil 6 just completely shit the bed. They completely shit the bed with Resident Evil 6. They realized that. They've changed course and they've come back. But Final Fantasy, no, they're going all in with their fucking boy band car road trip goddamn game. That is not fucking Final Fantasy yet. Call it something else. take the chocobos and the cactors and all that shit out of it. Replace them with other random mobs. Nobody would have bought that fucking game. The only reason that game sold as well as it is because they slapped the name Final Fantasy on it and stuck some stereotypical Final Fantasy bullshit in it. Just like with FF13. You could have called the game Cocoon or something. Like with Kingdom Hearts, right? Kingdom Hearts is a great game. It's not Final Fantasy. We all know it's not Final Fantasy. There's Final Fantasy characters and Final Fantasy aspects, but it's not fucking Final Fantasy. And we know that. And I'm okay with it because I like Kingdom Hearts. Because they don't try and call it something it fucking isn't. Final Fantasy 13 didn't have to be like Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, the movie. That was not Final Fantasy. Nothing about it was even close to Final Fantasy. Squaresoft just fucking sold their soul down the road. They should have never slapped Final Fantasy on that fucking movie. That should have been like the foretelling for the gaming world as a whole. Like just all of gaming is going to follow this model from this point forward. We have made a product that's pretty good. And flame me if you want, but I liked the movie. But it was not Final Fantasy. They should have called it something else. They should have just called it The Spirits Within or something. But it wouldn't have been as popular as it was, and it already wasn't very popular at all to begin with. There was no market for something like that. Problem is just there's no market or money in creating something new and artistic for the sake of doing it. Because it's so expensive to create some shit like that. So much for this being a short video. The reason why I have a hard time playing new games as they come out is because I've been burned. I'm skeptical. I'm very skeptical that the game's actually going to be good. Resident Evil 6 was the last game I pre-ordered. It was the last game. Absolutely the last game I pre-ordered. I have not pre-ordered a game since Resident Evil 6. That wasn't that long ago. I've been gaming for a very long time. I've been a gamer my entire life. I started with fucking Nintendo, Super Nintendo, worked my way up. You know, I've been a gamer forever. Resident Evil 6 was the last time I pre-ordered a game. It sucked. It was just it was, you know, kind of fun, but I'll never fucking play it again. It's like I like movies and I watch random movies and there's movies that people fucking hate or they think they're terrible and I disagree. I'm like, I liked it. I mean, I'll never watch it again because it wasn't that good, but it was entertaining, you know. Resident Evil 6 was entertaining one time through. Final Fantasy 13 was entertaining one time through. I'll never play it again, ever. Everybody knows all the complaints about it. No towns, no NPCs. It wasn't Final Fantasy. It wasn't. It fucking was not. It wasn't. I'm sorry, but it's not. And Resident Evil 7 gives me some hope because somehow, in my opinion, they found a way to make a game feel like Resident Evil without having to stick to its old tank controls and bad camera angles. Because that's not what made the game what it was. Those were parts of the game, and those did make the game difficult. But it's like when you can't describe to somebody why, you know, your cooking tastes so much better than their cooking, right? Like, we use the same ingredients. Why I don't know, I just made it with love, right? Like, but there really is something, like, it feels like Resident Evil. Even though there's not zombies and shit in it, just they nailed it. Maybe I'm biased because I felt like they did a fucking killer job with the way that game controls in VR. But game companies, seriously, developers, you have the power. You have the authority. You have the power. You have the talent. The problem is, you dumb motherfuckers, all the game designers and programmers and developers, all you assholes over at Capcom, Squaresoft, Bungie, fucking whatever the fuck, Konami, All of you assholes, every single one of you, game programmers, game developers, you're complicit in this. You're not innocent. Oh, but that's my paycheck. No, fuck you. You're complicit. You are doing what you're told to do by someone who has no clue about your craft. You are allowing the people with the money, the people holding the strings to the fucking purse, to tell you what you're allowed to make. That's bullshit. They can't make anything on their own. They can't do it. They don't have the talent. You're allowing these people to manipulate your talent and your skill set and your art because they're the ones funding it. You need to start telling them to fuck off, and if they want to fund your art, you're going to do it your way, the way you want to do it. Like Hideo Kojima did. Him and Konami just went, because Hideo Kojima refused, like, fuck you, I know what I'm doing. And if Hideo Kojima split with Konami because of Metal Gear Solid 5, I completely agree with him, because Metal Gear Solid 5 was a good game, but it fucking was not Metal Gear. That was not Metal Gear. It wasn't. I don't care. Just another example. That was goddamn Grand Theft Auto with fucking Solid Snake. That's what it was. Oh, it's all the world is so great. Yeah, no, it was a good game. It wasn't a bad game. It was a good game. But it wasn't fucking Metal Gear Solid. It was something else with Metal Gear Solid stuck to it. It just wasn't. It did not feel like Metal Gear Solid. It didn't feel like it. It did not feel like Metal Gear Solid at all. You're building a little base. That's not Metal Gear. You didn't have to sneak everywhere. You didn't. You did not have to be sneaky. You could just run in their guns blazing, build like that. It just did not feel like a Metal Gear Solid game. There was no. It just wasn't the same. It just fucking wasn't. If game developers and game programmers, story writers, concept artists, all of you guys, all of you, the only ones who even have any soul left are the concept artists and the writers who get fired and quit. Like, at least they have some spine, some fucking backbone, right? Yeah, I for the past 20 years, I've heard stories of writing teams switching around, quitting, leaving, because they're true to their art. They refuse. It's the same shit that happened with Destiny. They refuse to be manipulated into doing something they disagree with because they have a story. You want writers that'll sit there and just milk the shit out of something and do what you want? Hire some writers who write for TV shows like Lost or fucking Heroes. Writers that will just fucking cave in, and maybe they quit too. Maybe that's why those shows went to shit. The moral of the story here is, one, I don't fucking know how to make short videos. Two, video games are headed in a really, really unpleasant direction. The way that they are just adopting all of these new things and they're racing to the bottom, to the lowest common denominator, where they're all going to be making the same damn game, just with a different skin on it. You're gonna, everyone is gonna be playing Grand Theft Auto, just with a different skin on it. It's gonna be the Resident Evil version. There's gonna be an open world Resident Evil game. I hope not. I think that they were probably gonna start going that direction. If they're going back, Resident Evil 7 was good. If Resident Evil 8 is open world, I'm telling you right now, I'm not gonna buy it. And if you buy it, you're an asshole and you're complicit and you're contributing to the fucking problem. If you want to play an open world game, go play a fucking open world game. There's nothing wrong with Grand Theft Auto. It's a great game. There was nothing wrong with Skyrim. It was a great game. There's nothing wrong with open world games. They're great games. You don't have to turn every fucking genre of game into an open world game. You don't have to turn every genre of game into a fucking action RPG. The Final Fantasy VII remake. I don't know if I'm. it's gonna kill me to do it, but I'm really gonna try not to buy it when it comes out. I'm gonna try to fucking wait and just buy a used copy later on because I do want to play it. It's not gonna be Final Fantasy VII. It's gonna be action RP. It's gonna be Brave Fencer Musashi, which was a great fucking game. But it's gonna be Brave Fencer Musashi with a Final Fantasy VII skin on it. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be Kingdom Hearts with the Final Fantasy skin. It's not gonna be Final Fantasy. God of War, the newest God of War that just came out. Jesus, how the fuck did I forget about that? God of War for PS4. It's a good game. It's not a bad game. It is a really good game. It's not God of War. It's fucking not. And fuck you if you didn't like. Your opinion sucks. All right. If you think the newest God of War, oh, it's the best installment in the series. No, it's not. Fuck you. It's not God of War. God of War was a violent, top-down, almost dungeon crawlery type puzzle. Like, how do you nail that down? God of War was a really good game on PlayStation 2. It wasn't necessarily something new. It was a combination of a lot of existing things. But it kind of had its own, to me, its own like feel. Like this is a God of War game with the way the combo system worked and all of that. And it wasn't overly complicated, right? You just use the red blob shit to unlock new abilities. But this new God of War, you got all these armor sets and shit and skill trees and fucking the little boy that's like your sidekick that helps. And no, it's good. It's not bad. It's just it's not God of War. They could have made that game without Kratos in it at all, or they could have made that game. He doesn't even look like Kratos. What the fuck is with the beatnik beard? That's not. He doesn't look like Kratos. He doesn't talk like Kratos. He doesn't move like Kratos. He's not fucking Kratos. He's not. It's not God of War. Hi. Fire Film. It's a good game. It's not God of War. It's just not. They're gonna race to the bottom and just turn every single game into that. Every game is going to become some iteration of that. It's gonna be like a third person, over the shoulder, RPG mashup where there's a little bit of leveling, maybe a little bit of world building thrown in there where you get to build a little city off the side, or some shit like they did in Metal Gear Solid and Assassin's Creed. Like, they're slowly gonna just start turning every fucking game into the same fucking game. The same game, just with a different theme. And it's fucking annoying. Stop it. Find your soul.